Welcome to the report today of Wendi Adelson on the Veriscope channel, and it is the state of Florida versus Sigfredo Garcia and Catherine Magbanua. And today we're going to be watching Wendi Adelson's testimony, and we're also going to be, and if you're new to the Wendi case, and you might be, it's a very sad case. Wendi was married to a professor of law, Dan Markel, and her brother and her mother. Here's Wendi in earlier years with her mother, and her mother has been convicted of hiring hitmen who murdered Dan Markel by shooting him in the head. This is Wendi with her new boyfriend. And when she was married to Dan Markel. So Wendi hasn't been charged with any crime, but her mother and her brother have been convicted and have been sentenced. Here's her mother, Donna, and they've been sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. So, without further ado, let's listen to what she has to say on the witness stand, and then we're going to be going into the forensic linguistic analysis in a similar way to the FBI's behavioral analysis unit when they do a statement analysis of a transcript. And if you follow Veriscope for a while, you should be able to see within your own WhatsApps and your own emails much of the principles of statement analysis. Now, obviously, it's a bit of a Pandora's box, so you're probably best advised not to go back on old relationships until, if you really want to, you have a better understanding of statement analysis. Otherwise, it's easy to draw conclusions. So we enter the statement believing the narrator, believing the writer, believing the speaker, and we attempt to get linguistic empathy with them, entering their minds almost. You might have seen Netflix and Mindhunter and the Unabomber and how the FBI used the forensic linguistics to help to identify him. It actually happened in another way in the end, but they were close. So do subscribe, do like if you find you get some value out of the video at any time. That would be much appreciated to extend the reach. And I look forward to chat to you in the comments afterwards. It's going to be an extensive Veriscope. We're going to watch her being examined, not cross-examined. So we'll watch the examination and then we'll do the analysis. So without further ado, and thank you to the trial channel as always. Please go and check them out. Here they are. Look, you can see them here. Go and check them out. They do all of the editing, the best on YouTube. And if you like trials, fantastic channel to join. And if you like commentary and analysis of channels, then obviously I'll put my hand up to subscribe to Veriscope as well. So let's press play and see what Wendi Adelson has to say for herself.
All right, please introduce yourself and spell your name.
My name is Wendi Adelson, W-E-N-D-I-A-D-E-L-S-O-N.
How are you employed, Ms. Adelson?
I'm an attorney.
All right, and do you know...
Microphone up just a little bit, if you would, please, ma'am. All right.
I'm an attorney.
All right, how were you employed back in 2014?
I was employed at FSU Law School.
Okay, and were you a member of the Florida Bar at that time?
I was.
All right, and did you know Dan Markel?
Yes, I did.
How did you know Mr. Markel?
He was my husband.
When did you meet him?
We met in 2004.
Okay, and when did you marry?
So for those who have been following Veriscope, note all of the deception markers and indicators and where the flags go. And then we'll see how many you get when we go back into the analysis.
We married in 2006.
Did you ever live in Tallahassee?
I did live in Tallahassee.
When did you first move to Tallahassee?
We moved to Tallahassee in the fall, August of 2005, and we lived in Tallahassee that academic year, so from 2005 until the summer of 2006. And then we spent a year living in Miami from 2006 to 2007, and then I lived back in Tallahassee from 2007 to 2014.
Why did you move to Tallahassee the first time?
The first time we moved to Tallahassee for Danny's job. He got a job at FSU Law School.
All right, and what about the second time?
And the second time we moved back to Tallahassee because he had tried to get a job at University of Miami Law School and it didn't work out.
All right, so both times it was for his employment?
Yes,
Okay, did you like living in Tallahassee?
I did.
All right, and did you live on Trescott Drive?
We did.
Is that the home you lived in, the marital home you lived in here in Tallahassee?
That was our home.
Okay. And where are you from, Ms. Adelson?
I'm from Broward County originally.
So as an example, you might have noticed that was our home. So we noticed the sensitivity, the repeated that was, and we also noticed the pronoun our home. So she is sharing and psychologically with Dan Markel at her unconscious level, because we select pronouns when we speak unconsciously.
Okay. And do you have family members in Broward currently?
I have one family member in Broward.
Where do you live currently? Or you can just tell us.
I live in Miami-Dade County.
And what about your parents? Where do they live?
They currently live in Miami-Dade County.
All right. And what about your brother, Charles Adelson?
He lives in Broward County.
All right. And do you have any children?
I do.
And how many children do you have?
I have 2 children.
What are their ages?
They are 10 and 8, turning 9 soon.
Okay, both boys?
Both boys.
And both the biological children of Dan Markel?
Yes.
How are your family members employed, specifically your parents and your brother?
My mom is not currently working very much. She helps out with my dad's office. My dad is a dentist, and my brother Charlie is a periodontist.
And does your family have a dental practice in South Florida
They do.
that they own and operate?
They do.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what all the strange head movements and doll-like, wide-eyed, strange mouth position. Is anybody else noticing this? I hope it's not just me.
Is your family in South Florida wealthy? I know it's a relative term.
Are you asking me to speculate?
No, I'm asking if they're wealthy.
Now, she's a lawyer, a solicitor. So there's a little bit of sparring going on between these two individuals. And this is a slight insult, a slight attack, isn't it? Are you asking me to speculate? So she's using the language of the courtroom against her. There's a little battle going on between these two.
If you don't know, you say you don't know.
It depends how you define wealthy.
Okay. Are they millionaires?
No.
At this point, she's extremely confident that she's got away with murder. She's very confident that the 2 people on trial are going to take, because her brother and her mother haven't been convicted yet in this trial. She's confident. You can see there's attitude here. She thinks she's going to get away with it. And here's the thing, she has. She has. So far.
Okay.
When did you separate from Mr. Markel?
We separated in the fall of 2012.
And was part of the reason for your disagreement or separation having to do with how to raise the children in terms of your faith?
Yes, we had different ways of practicing our faith.
Okay. Do you know when you filed for divorce?
I believe it was the fall of 2012.
Okay, 9/10/2012 sound right to you?
That sounds right.
And when you separated initially in the fall of 2012, did you move to South Florida with the kids?
No, I did not.
You didn't go to South Florida with the kids?
No, I did not.
Was it your desire during that time to move with the children to South Florida?
I would say right then, no, it wasn't.
Are you familiar with?
So many of you will have just noted, I would say, which isn't saying, is it? I would say. It's one of those phrases which is often used in deception.
The court order ordering you to come back to Tallahassee from South Florida?
I'm not familiar with that.
When you moved out from the marital home there on Trescott Drive, you lived at another residence in Tallahassee, is that correct?
I did.
And do you recall the address there?
I do. 3303 Aqua Ridge Way.
Okay. And was there a time during the time that you were living?
So in that instance, we would ask ourselves, why is she pretending that she's struggling to remember? Did you notice that? There was a little bit of a pantomime, a little bit of a performance that went on. She wanted us to think that she's trying to remember and honestly trying really hard, but it's okay, I did remember in the end. Did you notice that?
In there at Aqua Ridge, that you determined that you would like to move to South Florida with the children.
There was.
All right. And were your parents very involved in trying to facilitate that relocation?
And so one of the principles which we would then highlight is the need to convince, because are they conveying information or are they convincing us is your number one filter. Are they conveying or are they convincing? And these little pantomimes of pretending to remember, oh yes, I did remember, or do remember rather, why? Why are they trying to convince us? Are they trying to reduce the importance of the address? And if so, why are they trying to convince us that the address is not so important in this trial? Do you see? And so as we go through the forensic linguistics, clue after clue, many of which are irrelevant, but we put the flag in anyway, just in case. Whereas if we debated, should it have a flag here? I don't know. I wouldn't do that. Would you do that? No, I wouldn't do that. People don't say it that way. And we can convince ourselves not to put the flag in. And it might be important. So if we don't debate, do we spot a violation of a principle of statement analysis in this case? We do, and then we put in the flag. I hope that makes sense. Because we can ignore individual flags. They mean nothing by themselves, per se, but it's the clusters and the superclusters that eventually paint us a picture as to whether or not the statement is deceptive. And although at the beginning I said we enter the statement believing the narrator, bear in mind I've probably spent over 100 hours analysing Wendi Adelson already, so I have a pretty firm conviction as to what I think. But the individual flags themselves, we shouldn't spend too long debating over, because it's the clusters that are going to paint that picture of deception for us. Okay, let's carry on.
My parents were supportive of me moving to South Florida.
Would you describe your parents as being over involved in your personal business?
as compared to other people's parents?
Yeah.
I don't
I love Georgia at that bit. Yeah. Like that's the question I've just asked you.
know.
Can you see the little battle between them? She's very confident that she's getting away with it. And of course, in her mind, the two people on trial, she being the narcissistic type that she is, she doesn't care about at all.
What was the child custody schedule when you were living at Aqua Ridge? And I assume Mr. Markel continued to live in the marital home on Trescott?
He did.
Okay, what was the custody situation with the kids?
So the custody situation,
And again, if you're new to the trial, she wanted to go and live back closer to her parents, and Dan Markel's work took her away from what she wanted. And the grandparents wanted the two grandsons close to them as well. Dan Markel wouldn't allow that. And eventually they came up with a plan to kill him, and did. And this individual, of course, I believe is the puppet master.
changed over time and depending on the part of the year. But I think in the beginning, we would do a Wednesday night overnight. It was about 50-50 shared custody, but I don't remember the exact arrangement. I do remember in the summertime it would switch to week on, week off, but during the school year it was slightly different.
So still 50-50, but not necessarily every other week. It was mixed up within the week.
It was.
Okay. And you mentioned that you did develop a desire to move to South Florida. Did you file a motion to that effect on January 14th, 2013?
That sounds, I did file a motion. I don't remember the exact date,
Okay.
but that sounds about right.
All right. And in that motion,
And the point I was going to make is that the benefits of Dan Markel being murdered to her are not just her freedom to go where she wants with her children, but there was also over $2 million of life insurance which the boys would inherit, and various other motivations beyond just her narcissistic want to be at a different location.
did you make some allegations that Mr. Markel was making things
Oh, and she attempted to get hold of that $2 million. She's not stupid, this one.
difficult for you at work?
I did.
Okay. And was that motion granted or denied?
That motion was denied.
All right. Denied with prejudice?
I don't remember.
Okay.
If you have it, I'm happy to take a look.
Okay. But in any event, you were not able to move at that time.
I did not move.
And were you upset about being stuck in Tallahassee?
I was relieved.
You were relieved. You wanted to stay in Tallahassee.
I was happy at my job.
Okay. Do you recall when your divorce to Mr. Markel became final?
The summer of 2013.
Okay. July 31st sound about right?
That sounds right.
Would you consider your divorce with Mr. Markel to be a nasty divorce?
I think most divorces aren't very pleasant.
Okay, but this one was like really unpleasant, right?
I found getting divorced to be unpleasant, yes.
And in the litigation that ensued between the two of you, you guys argued over things as small as a tennis racket, I noticed in one pleading.
I don't remember that.
Did he threaten to press kidnapping charges against you?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
I don't remember
Remember
that. No.
Did he threaten to go after?
Do you remember the little face that she pulled when she was asked about the kidnapping? And then afterwards, when it's re-asked, she says she doesn't remember that. And she says she doesn't remember the ridiculous argument over the tennis racket, which I suspect was extremely important to her at the time, but now denies that she can't remember it. So already we know that she's a complete and utter liar. And we also know what she was prepared to do to Dan Markel. Many believe that the FBI are going to arrest her. So far, I've not seen any evidence of that.
Your law license? Remember that?
I don't remember that, no.
Do you remember him saying you failed to disclose a bunch of assets in the divorce process?
I do remember that.
Okay, did you guys have any mediations as part of your divorce?
We did have mediations leading up to settlement.
2 8-hour mediations, correct?
I don't remember how long they were, but they seemed very long.
Yeah, and they both did not result in a resolution.
They did not.
All right, but you did reach a settlement, I think, kind of just on the eve of a trial on the matter, correct?
That sounds right.
Do you remember this motion?
Okay, so boom. Did you notice the eye movement there? Up and to the right for her. She was accessing visual remembered. So remember that as her baseline in terms of her NLP eye acuity. If that makes any sense to those that know.
And that was filed by your deceased ex-husband on March 26, 2014, involving, among other things, that had to do with your mother, an allegation that your mother was disparaging the children.
Objection.
I'm sorry.
Hearsay.
Overruled.
Disparaging him to the children is what I meant to say. Are you familiar with that pleading?
I am familiar with that pleading.
Yeah, when she goes visual remembered, she has a common pattern of up and to the right. So her internal dialogue, when she's trying to reconstruct a memory that's truthful, and she's using visual construct, or sorry, visual memory to find that information, this is the movement that we get. When we can combine the body language clues with the linguistics and they match, then that's confirmatory. But individually, the body language and the eye movements is less reliable than what they say for obvious reasons. Ultimately, with forensic linguistics, all we're really doing is listening very carefully. It's little more than that. It's little more than absolute comprehension as to what they're saying, which makes it more reliable than interpreting body language. Let's carry on.
All right, and in that pleading, did he allege that you were depriving him of physical access to the children?
I don't remember the specifics.
Do you recall whether he was complaining about you refusing to communicate with him about right of first refusal to the children during your time with them?
I know he was frustrated about the Skyping.
Lack of communication via Skype.
It's hard
between
to
you and the
Skype
children.
with 2 toddlers, yes.
All right, and in that motion, do you recall him being upset about an allegation that you let the kids eat non-kosher foods?
I remember him being upset about that in general, but I don't remember whether it was an emotion or not.
What does that mean, non-kosher foods?
So kosher rules have to do with the separation of milk and meat, or dairy and meat. So non-kosher foods would be meat that hasn't been killed in a way that conforms with Jewish law, or the mixing of the two.
And is observing those types of eating habits something that's important to you?
It is not important to me.
And was it something that was important to Dan Markel?
It was important to Danny.
And it was important to him that the children observe that way of eating, correct?
It was.
And in that motion, did he seek to restrict your mother's contact with the kids to supervised visits only?
I don't remember, but if you'd like to show me the motion, I can take a look.
Okay, but you don't remember that portion?
No.
All right. Do you remember the allegation that your mother made statements to the children that grandma hates you,
Overruled.
grandma says you're stupid, your father is trying to take my sunshines away, anything like that? Do you recall?
No, but again, I'm happy to look at it if you'd like to show me.
I understand. Do you
So one of her tactics we see here is, no, I'm going to deny it until you can prove that I said it. And then once you've proven that I said it, I'll go, oh, yes, I do remember that. So this is her style. Deny until you can prove and then perhaps remember. Or continue with that, no, I still can't remember, but thanks for proving it. And this is the strategy that she's chosen. It's consistent, it's uniform, but where she gives the game away is because it's impossible to be consistent about where you should, of course, remember and where she claims that she can, and where she claims that she can't remember and has total amnesia. And yet, on the same day and the same subject, just those areas which are dangerous to her completely forgotten, and those areas which are completely safe, completely remembered. We call that selective amnesia, and she demonstrates this throughout her testimonies, throughout these trials.
recall that Mr. Markel was seeking sanctions against you personally in that motion?
I don't remember that.
Do you know whether this would have been a motion that you would have shown to your mother? Would she have been aware of it?
I probably would have shown my mom the motion.
Is it fair to say that your parents are very protective of you?
I think that's fair to say.
Is it fair to say that your brother is very protective of you?
I think that's fair to say.
Okay. What about Dan Markel? Did your family like him?
Do you want to specify a point in time?
Well, I'm specifically thinking of a statement you made in the interview after his death, where you indicated that your parents were very angry with him. Is that accurate?
At that point in time, during our divorce, I do think they were angry with him. They felt like he had treated me badly.
And the motion to preclude your mom from having unsupervised contact with your kids, that was still pending at the time of his murder, correct?
That's possible. I mean, I don't think anyone took that motion very seriously.
Okay. Did your mom take it seriously?
I don't think so.
Did Dan Markel take it seriously?
I don't know how Danny felt about a motion. If he wrote the motion, he was probably taking it seriously.
I want to approach with some emails. Have you had an opportunity to review State's Exhibit 80?
Donna, could I see what the states of approaching? Donna, and I don't know if you want to do it now or I'm gonna request a sidebar on this.
What's that?
I'm gonna request a sidebar on this one.
The letter identified first.
This is State's Exhibit 80. Just take a moment and flip through, make sure this is the exhibit you reviewed previously.
I've been shown these exhibits.
Okay. And are these exhibits fair and accurate copies of emails between yourself and your mother, Donna Adelson?
They are.
Okay. And the email addresses on this exhibit, donnaharvey@gmail.com. Whose address is that?
My parents have a joint email address.
Okay, but you were communicating with one of them in particular in these emails, right?
Whoever signed the email, but it could be from either or both of them.
Okay, either could have used it, but we can deduce from who signed it who this one was from?
That sounds right.
Okay, and Wendi Adelson@gmail.com, is that you?
That is me.
All right, Judge, at this time I ask you to move into evidence. State's Exhibit.
We'll go sidebar. Let me give a brief legal explanation to the jury. You've heard a number of hearsay objections about things that were said by Mr. Markel, things that are in these emails by another person who may not be testifying. Normally, we refer to those things as hearsay, and they're not allowed without the person actually testifying, but there are a whole bunch of exceptions to that. And one of the exceptions to that is when it's not being offered to prove that what's said is true, but simply to show that it has been said because there's some relevance to the fact that these statements were made. So I am not offering these statements to show they're true. These persons, I mean, obviously Mr. Markel can't be here for us to have cross-examination of him. We don't anticipate that the other Miss Adelson will be here as a witness. We can't test. The attorneys will not be able to test that to see whether that's true or not, but I am allowing it for limited purposes to show state of mind of these persons. So you may proceed, Ms. Kappelman.
Yes, Your Honor.
I notice in the emails that your mother referring to, who I think is Dan Markel, as Jibbers. What does that mean?
Jibbers was a nickname that I gave Danny when he was being really difficult and causing me a lot of pain. Was sort of a nickname I gave him to make him feel less threatening.
So it was a derogatory thing.
I wouldn't say it was derogatory.
Did you call him that to his face?
No, I called him Danny to his face.
Okay.
And Jibbers would be what? How would you spell that?
I don't know that I ever spelled it out. In the emails, I think it's spelled with a J, but I guess you could spell it with a G.
Jibbers.
That would be one way to
Ms.
spell it.
Adelson, you had Mr. Markel's phone number programmed into your phone as Jibbers, didn't you?
That's right.
Do you know much about your brother Charles Adelson's business practices?
I know that he does implant surgery.
Do you know anything about whether he offers discounts for cash or does a lot of business in cash?
I have no idea.
Do you know if there's a safe in your parents' house that has stacks of cash inside?
I don't know about a safe with stacks of cash.
So you don't have a stack of cash in your parents' safe that's Wendy's stack?
No.
Okay. Did Charlie Adelson like Dan Markel? And again, I'm referring to the time frame before his death.
I mean, I think he was also, he would listen to me when I would tell him about things I was upset about at the time with the divorce. So whether he liked him or didn't like him, he certainly was supportive of me.
Okay, but he never expressed any dislike?
No.
Did he mention hiring a hitman to kill your husband?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
No.
Did he ever joke about he looked into hiring a hitman, but buying you a TV as a divorce present would be cheaper?
He did make that joke. He tended to repeat himself, and sometimes he would make jokes that weren't very funny about all kinds of things.
All right, and was that TV, did he buy you a TV as a divorce present?
He did.
And was that TV the same TV that was being repaired at your residence at the time that your husband was murdered?
It was.
Who made the arrangements for that TV repair?
I did.
Your mom didn't make those arrangements?
I don't believe so.
Notice the hedging there, the I don't believe so. And of course it's going to come out later that she's just barefaced lied to you. Caught, then she retreats to the I don't believe so. Classic gaslighting behavior.
And the repairman was at your house that morning that your husband died between 8:30 and 9:15. Do you agree with that?
I remember he was supposed to come between 8 and noon, and then he ended up coming on the early side.
That's when he arrived, between 8:30 and 9:15.
It's my best recollection.
Did Charlie ever say that he considered...
You see, I think this silly breathing with the mouth open and the head tilt and the doe eyes, I think she spent time in front of the mirror practicing looking innocent to the jury, practicing this butter wouldn't melt look. And of course, it's become a pantomime, grotesque mask, in effect. And don't forget the evil that lies underneath.
all possible options to take care of the problem being Dan Markel?
Objection, hearsay, and,
Oh.
Your Honor, I just have a standing objection, so I don't keep interrupting Ms. Kaplan. Thank you.
Did he ever say that?
No.
After the murder of Mr. Markel, did Charlie Adelson take you out for a celebration dinner?
No.
Do you recall any dinner shortly after Mr. Markel's death where you were with Mr. Charlie Adelson and vomited?
I do remember that dinner. I'm sorry?
Go ahead, I interrupted you.
After Danny died, I was terrified that someone was going to come after me or my children and harm us as well. And so I didn't leave my house for about a month. And when I finally felt ready to leave the house and have dinner, I told my brother that I wanted to have dinner, that I was ready to finally go to a restaurant and eat a meal again. And I'd barely eaten for a full month, just out of grief and shock. And so that night, when I finally ate for the first time, they ended up taking a while before they sat us, and they sat us at the bar, and I had a drink, and I wasn't used to eating anything or drinking alcohol, and I threw up at the table. The only time in my life I've done something like that, but it was certainly not a celebration.
And you never heard...
Okay, so did you notice the change in percentages and the length of reply and the number of excuses? We're seeing an excuse spike. This is very sensitive to her. This justifies in her mind the level of excuses that have been given. And that in itself is its own indicator and flag in its own right. The massive spike in the excuse rate shows us that this is sensitive.
Brother referred to it in that way?
No.
Okay. Were you involved in any way in a plot to kill Dan Markel?
No.
Do you have any knowledge other than the statements you've...
Notice the unreliable denial. You're asked if you had anything to do with the murder of your ex-husband. All it deserves is a funny face pulled and a single no. Nothing else. That's an unreliable denial. It's a very weak denial. It's the least possible effort.
said your brother made, or the jokes your brother made. Do you have any knowledge of anyone being involved in a plot to kill your husband?
No.
Do you know Catherine Magbanwa?
I have met her before.
How do you know her?
We met one time at dinner when I came home and my brother introduced me to her. And I think we might have gone to the beach once with her and a friend for a few hours.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as States Exhibit 36. Is that a photograph of you and Catherine Magbanwa at the beach?
With her friend, yes.
Okay, and do you remember the friend's name?
I don't.
All right, is this a fair and accurate photograph from that event?
That looks...
So with her friend was important enough to minimize. But then when questioned about the friend's name, she dismisses. Did you see that? So then we ask ourselves, why was it important for her to minimize the connection? To minimize the fact that they're on the beach together? Why is it important to minimize that? And she minimized it by saying, yes, with her friend. And her friend's name? Don't know, don't care, to be honest. Do you see? When we go into the forensic linguistics, all of this sort of finding will come through when we do the analysis. But here we saw minimization of the friendship, and then the dismissal of the unimportance of the other person. Essentially, this individual, an extremely dangerous individual, has such narcissistic type personality that she just doesn't care about anyone else. It's complete dismissal. And I suspect the people on trial, recognize that, she just doesn't care. I suspect her brother and her mother inside now the prison cell will eventually come to the conclusion that she doesn't care. There isn't an ounce of gratitude. And perhaps this was her entire plan all along. She's free of Markel and her family. Very dangerous individual.
Like the three of us at the beach, yes.
Do you recall when this was taken?
I don't.
Okay. Does Father's Day weekend 2014 sound correct?
So June 2014, that's
Yes, ma'am.
possible.
All right. Would it refresh your memory to look at the data associated with that photograph?
Sure.
Okay. Where the photo was taken.
It looks like it was taken on June 15th, 2014.
All right. And do you know where the photo was taken?
I think that's South Beach.
Close to where your parents were living in the condo?
Yes.
And did you say how you know Ms. Magdalena?
She was dating my brother.
Judge, at this time, I'd ask to introduce State 36.
Is there objection?
None for Mr. Garcia, Judge.
None for Ms. McDonald, Your Honor.
It'll be admitted.
So, which one is you?
I'm the one in the middle.
And which one's Ms. Magdalena?
The one on the left-hand side to the right of me in the photo.
Okay. And this one's her friend?
Yes.
Ms. Magdalena's friend.
Yes.
Approach and show you one more photo. This is photo 37. Recognize this photo?
I don't recognize that photo, but I recognize the people in it.
Okay, who's in it?
That's my brother, and I think that's Katie.
All right, is Katie Catherine McDaniel?
Yes.
And this is a very accurate photo of the two of them when, I guess, during the time that they were dating.
That looks right.
Judge, at this time, I'd ask to move to the State's 37.
Is there objection?
Yes, Your Honor, this witness is not able to properly authenticate that picture in terms of when it was taken and where it was taken, so I would object.
Sustained.
Your brother dated Catherine McDaniel?
Yes.
Okay. And was that the context in which you became acquainted with her? Was through your brother?
Yes.
Do you know when they began seeing each other, your brother and Ms. McDaniel?
I have no idea.
Do you know when they stopped seeing each other?
I have no idea.
Do you know whether the relationship between your brother and Ms. McDaniel was a serious relationship?
I met many, many girlfriends of my brother's over the years. I didn't get any indication that it was a serious relationship.
Okay. He's a guy that has a lot of girlfriends.
He has had a lot of girlfriends.
How many girlfriends has he had since Catherine McDaniel?
I have no idea.
Several?
Probably.
And does he have a child with someone now?
He does have a child.
How old is your brother?
43?
Has he ever been married?
No.
Do you know whether your brother makes a practice of giving gifts to his former girlfriends?
I have no idea.
Are you aware of any specific gift he's ever given to a former girlfriend?
No.
And so there we saw an example of visual construct. She couldn't recall the particular gifts. She was trying to construct them, different than visual remembered.
Do you know Sigfredo Garcia?
No.
Have you ever met him?
No.
I want to ask you about the week prior to Mr. Markel's murder, like June 30th through July 10th, 2014.
Did you catch the visual remember? Did you catch it? So we're slowly introducing some elements of body language to go along with the linguistic intelligence, but we'll keep it to a minimum.
Were you in South Florida that week?
I know I was in South Florida for my father's 70th birthday. My dad's birthday is July 5th. I don't remember if his party was on his actual birthday or a little before or a little after, but I remember I went down for his birthday.
Can you tell the jury whether or not you were in South Florida on July 1st, 2014?
I couldn't say for sure.
Okay, but it would
I
be
may have
good-
traveled that day. I don't remember exactly when I went down. I only remember I was there for probably about a week and that I went down for my dad's birthday, but I couldn't tell you more exactly than that.
Your dad's birthday's on the 5th?
It is.
What month?
Of July?
Was Mr. Markel planning to leave town the day after he was murdered?
I believe he was.
Do you know where he was going?
I believe he was going to New York to visit his girlfriend.
And how old was Mr. Markel when he was killed?
He was born in 1972, and he died in July of 2014, before his birthday's in October. He was 41.
41 years old?
Yes.
Did law enforcement in this case analyze your cell phone?
I gave them my cell phone.
Okay. And in your cell
So the answer could have been yes, couldn't it? But she had to change it to I gave them my cell phone. So there's communication inside the answer, isn't there? That she's saying, no, if they analysed it, they're treating me like a criminal and a suspect, whereas if I gave it, I'm a witness. And so quickly she changed the linguistics from the question and gave her answer in the way that conveyed all of that. That's at least what I read. What did you read?
phone, you have some contacts for Donna Adelson, Harvey Adelson, and Charlie Adelson, as well as Gibbers, who we've established as Dan Markel. Are all the phone numbers in your phone for them accurate phone numbers for those folks?
I would imagine so.
And I want to ask you about some recorded phone calls that were taken in association with this case. Did you have an opportunity to review a disc of some of those phone calls?
I did. The phone calls weren't played.
I'm sorry, hold on just a minute.
Yeah.
All right, so I provided you with a disc, correct?
Yes.
And a list of the specific phone calls and the voices on the specific phone calls that I was asking you whether you could identify.
Yes.
All right. And did you initial next to the letters of those calls that you were able to identify?
I did.
All right, I'm going to approach and show you State's Exhibit 175. 175.
I just wanted to clarify that we didn't listen to the phone calls from beginning to end for each one, but that we were able to listen to parts of the phone calls so that we could authenticate who was speaking on the phone call.
Okay, and when you say we, who are you referring to?
Myself and my attorney.
Okay, so you listened to, you felt enough of the phone call in order to be able to tell me whose voice was on the call?
That's right.
Okay, and when you initial next to the highlighted portions, okay, I guess I should say, the calls are listed by letter and number, each call, and then I have highlighted the names that I am asking you to authenticate. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and if you've initialed next to that call, does that signify that you were able to authenticate that the highlighted names on that call were the voices of those people?
Correct.
Okay, so namely Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson, correct?
Correct.
Judge, at this time I'd ask to move into evidence states 175.
No objection from Mr. Garcia.
There's an objection from the second judge. I
Your
can't.
legal objection?
Your Honor, I think it would require a speaking objection, so I'm not sure how you'd like to handle
State
it.
your legal objection.
The legal objection is going to be relevance at this point, like improper foundation.
All right, I'll overrule that objection. No, admit. State's Exhibit 175.
I want to talk about your location on the day of Mr. Markel's murder. You know that law enforcement looked at your phone and sort of looked at your movements that day?
Yes.
Okay. And that information indicates you were home at the Aqua Ridge residence at approximately 12:27 in the afternoon that day. Is that correct?
I don't remember exactly what time, but that sounds right. I know I had left to meet some friends for lunch, so I guess I had left. I was home until that time. That sounds right.
All right. So it seems like kind of around lunchtime, about half afternoon.
Sure.
All right. And then shortly after that, at 12:29, it appears you were traveling on Centerville Road. Is that a normal way that you would ingress and egress from your Aqua Ridge residence?
That sounds right.
All right. And when you left your residence, you said you were going to lunch. Did you go directly to lunch?
No, I stopped and made a purchase for a party that I was supposed to attend first.
And what was that purchase?
It was my first time purchasing bourbon. It was for not a bridal shower. It was for a bachelor. No, it was for a wedding party, but it was the bride and groom together, and they had asked for people to buy certain alcohol to help them.
Like a stock the bar party.
A stock the bar party. I forgot what it's called.
Okay. And do you remember what type of bourbon you purchased?
I don't.
Does Bullet bourbon sound familiar?
Maybe. It was.
All right.
They had a list of what they wanted, and so I asked the person at the store if they had whatever kind it was.
Okay. And do you recall where you went to purchase the alcohol?
I think I went on Thomasville Road at ABC Liquor.
Okay. Is there a reason you went to that particular store?
No, I don't know many liquor stores. That was the first one that popped up.
All right. And you made that purchase according to the receipt that was in your vehicle at 12:49. Does that sound about right to you?
That sounds right.
Okay. And did you make any stops between leaving your residence and going to the liquor store?
Maybe I purchased gas?
I don't know if you did or not, but I'm referring to your visit to the crime scene.
I did not visit the crime scene.
Okay. You did not pull up to the crime scene tape on Truscott Drive?
No. I was driving on Centerville Road, and sometimes I would take the shortcut through Truscott.
Yes, ma'am.
But when I was driving on Centerville Road, I saw some sort of tape or obstruction, and so I didn't turn.
Okay. And then you went from the liquor store straight to the restaurant?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. And what restaurant was that?
What was the name of that restaurant?
Mosaic?
Mosaic.
Okay. Have you seen the photographs that were taken of your vehicle?
I have not. That looks like my car.
Like the bourbon that you purchased that day?
That looks like bourbon, yeah.
Who had your kids the morning that Mr. Markel was killed?
The kids were at preschool.
But I mean, at what home did they wake up that day?
That morning, I think they were at Danny's house.
Did you stand to gain anything from your husband's death, like financially?
No.
Do you know how much the lawyers that assisted you with the divorce process and litigation that followed the divorce, do you know how much they cost?
How much my lawyers
How
or
much you
Danny's
spent on
lawyers?
lawyers, yeah.
I honestly don't remember.
Fair to say it was a lot of money?
It felt like a lot of money to me.
How many different lawyers did you have during the pendency?
So you might have noticed there that she did the visual remember, but she also felt. Did you know that? So there was some sort of auditory feeling and visual. She was talking inside her head, and it resulted in a feeling. Let's carry on.
Of your divorce and the litigation that followed.
I had 3.
Do you know how many Mr. Markel had?
I don't remember.
Do you remember your mom suggesting a plan to offer Danny $1 million to allow the relocation of you and the children to South Florida?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
How shall I answer that?
I'm sure I knew about it at the time that it happened, and then I had my memory refreshed about it recently.
I'm sure I knew about it at the. So first of all, we have the pantomime of how shall I answer this? Well, we'll go into detail in the analysis rather than spend time here. Let's carry on.
Did you ever make the offer to Mr. Markel?
No.
Did you move to South Florida after their father was killed with the children?
So after he was killed, I packed a weekend bag and went to South Florida for what I thought would be a couple of days, maybe a week. My son's birthday was July 29th, and I thought we'd be back in Tallahassee by then.
Did you ever come back?
I did come back a few times, but not permanently.
Okay, so you ended up moving there permanently.
I wouldn't say it's permanent, but I'm living there right now.
Okay. Well, it's been 5 years.
It has been a while. I've been exploring options for employment in many different places.
So again, we would notice the minimization and ask why. Why is she trying to influence you and the jury? That it was only short term, even though it's been 5 years. Shh. Why? If you know, do put in the comments.
Okay. And when you initially left to go to South Florida, was that the same day as the funeral service for your husband?
No.
Was it the day after?
It might have been the day after or the day after that. I don't remember.
Did you change your children's last name from Markel to Adelson?
I did.
When was that done?
So after Danny died, there was a lot of press coverage, and CNN put pictures of my children's faces unblurred on national television. Newspapers put their names without any consideration to the fact that they're children. And
I appreciate that, but the question is when did you change their names?
When they started school, I registered them under my name, hoping it would keep them safe.
Mm-hmm.
And
was
then
that approximately a year after their dad was killed?
it was whenever I registered Ben for school, so it was soon after.
So we would note that she has a common uniform pattern of over explaining when it's sensitive to her. Did you notice that? So we're beginning to see the areas of sensitivity through over explanation.
But I didn't legally change their name until after that.
Okay.
And if it's not sensitive, she'll do the I'm innocent look with the strange open mouth and the tilted head and just singular no's or singular yeses or singular I can't remembers, etc.
Where did they start school? When you say you changed their name when they started school, was that here in Tallahassee or somewhere else?
No, it was in South Florida.
So that fall, they started regular enrollment like you would in the normal beginning of the school year?
That's right.
Okay. And did you also eliminate your older son's middle name?
When I legally changed their names, I did.
And you just dropped that from the name?
I did.
Okay. And that was a name that came from Dan Markel's deceased maternal grandmother, is that correct?
The name started with an A, which was to honor my grandfather, Aaron Adelson, and the second half of his name was to honor Danny's grandmother.
Okay.
So we lost an honor to both families.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Proceed.
Ms. Adelson,
Okay, so let's go now to the analysis itself and see what we can find from the linguistics. And let's compare what you found yourself on the notepad. And please do put in the comments all the findings which we haven't put here, because there are literally hundreds. And this is the great thing about analysis. A different set of fresh eyes on a transcript always finds brilliant new findings. It's just one of those strange, even if you're looking at the document for the 100th time, A new set of eyes will always, provided they're an experienced analyst, see new things. And in fact, if you go back to an analysis that you did perhaps 4 or 5 or 6 months ago and re-watch it, the difference, A, in your skill level, and B, your ability to see new things anyway, will astound you. And also bear in mind, try new cases. So if you've been following one particular case on the Veriscope channel, do change to another case that's fresh for you, where you haven't yet made up your mind, perhaps, and you can really use it as a yardstick to test how far have I come in learning how to spot deception. And I think you'll be very surprised and very enthusiastic at your continued ability going forward, because if you've watched a dozen or so Veriscopes already, I think you'll be amazed at your ability. So without carrying on, let's dive into the analysis now. What have we got? Wendy's a Harvard-educated attorney, and she is testifying. She's got full immunity. So anything she says in this trial, she has immunity for. Qualified immunity, I believe they call it in America. So provided she tells the truth, she has immunity. Before the murder, before the motive, before the denials, a question about moving house, she said, we, and then she moved to I. I don't know if you caught that. And pronouns are very important to us because they come naturally. They're instinctive. She said, we moved to Tallahassee in 2000, in the fall of August of 2005, and we lived in Tallahassee that academic year. So from 2005 until the summer of 2006, and then we spent a year living in Miami from 2006 to 2007, and then she switched, lived back in Tallahassee from 2007 to 2014. So her brain divorced him in 2007, in effect. The sentence that died. Did Charlie Adelson like Dan Markel? I mean, I think he would listen to me and I would tell him about things I was upset about at the time with the divorce. So whether he liked him or didn't like him, he certainly was supportive of me. Also, I think he was also, and then we have that self-censorship, don't we? The sentence dies. I mean, and here this is often used to buy cognitive thinking time. I mean, self-censorship, interruption. She's bought sufficient time to carry on. I think he was also, but doesn't like what she was about to say in case it gave anything away. So immediate second self-censorship, and then she goes on. The sentence dies, but the word that survived is the finding, also. So this is the moment that she self-censored. What was also? It means in addition to something already stated. What was already stated? Minutes earlier at 12:47, her parents were angry with Dan. Also. It links Charlie to that anger. The brain sentence was completing, I think he was also angry, hostile, but she self-censored in time. The replacement, he would listen to me, repositions Charlie from active, angry, to passive listening. The first word also was truth. And the correction, this self-censorship here, because look at this, the entire sentence is deceptive. This is management of what you almost gave away. Present tense for the dead, past tense for the living. How old was Mr. Markel when he was killed? He was born in 1972 and he died in July of 2014 before self-censorship. His birthday is in October. He was 41. So she's computing rather than remembering, and she's buying thinking time because she doesn't really want you to know how little she cares about him. Doesn't even know how old he was when he was murdered by her, in my opinion, and her family. She doesn't know he was 41, she calculates it. This is her narcissistic type. She just doesn't give a shit, basically. She's calculating. But she doesn't want you to know how shallow and narcissistic she is, that she doesn't even know the age of her murdered ex-husband. So she's trying to buy time to get it done. But look, there's a deeper finding here. His birthday is in. Dan is dead, remember. Everything else is past tense. His birthday is. It's very subtle. It's not. His birthday was in October. It is. It's coming from the unconscious. He tended to repeat himself, and sometimes he would make jokes that weren't very funny about all kinds of things. This is Charlie. And did you notice that she was very sensitive about this joke? She almost told us, yes, why on earth did he have to say this? Because he's ruined the whole plan. Charlie is alive. If these are enduring traits, the brain says he tends. In her mind, he tended to repeat himself. To some degree, Charlie's gone. She's got past tense for her brother, present tense for her husband. The hitman joke era is complete. He tended to make those jokes. He doesn't anymore because what they referenced has been accomplished. The tense collision. The brain keeps the dead man's calendar alive and the living man's behavior buried. So the motive architecture. Dan failed to get a job in Miami. They stayed in Tallahassee. Wendi filed a motion to relocate, and this was denied with prejudice. Donna, her mother, offered $1 million. Dan refused. And there's argument over whether or not this $1 million was offered. But Dan refused, apparently, and then Dan was murdered. In other words, they couldn't get their plan with money, so they resorted to murder him instead. And then Wendi moved to South Florida with the children, having collected the $2 million for the boys and attempting to get hold of it herself. For those that know, do put in the comments, but I believe the phone calls were made almost immediately on Dan's death to try and collect that money. But I believe Dan had changed paperwork in the meantime. The second time we moved back to Tallahassee because he had tried. There's a little bit of victim blaming in all of Wendy's transcript to get a job at University of Miami Law School, and it didn't work out. Tried for failed. For Danny's job, clean second, he had tried and it didn't work out. Dan tried and failed to get them to South Florida. The return to Tallahassee is framed as a consequence of Dan's failure. The relocation frustration starts immediately. I did not move, I was relieved. Was that motion granted or denied? That motion was denied. You were not able to move at that time? I did not move. Notice how Wendi consistently is difficult. Were you upset about being stuck in Tallahassee? I was relieved. She names an emotion for a court ruling. She names none for the murder. I was relieved, she says. The brain stored relief at a legal setback. It stored nothing for the homicide that accomplished the same result. Donna's $1 million. Do you remember your mum suggesting a plan to offer Danny $1 million to allow the relocation? I'm sure I knew about it. Do you remember? And she took her time thinking. She says, I'm sure I knew about it at the time that it happened, and then I had my memory refreshed about it recently. Okay, so she really thought, how am I going to answer this, didn't she? She took at least 2 or 3 seconds over it, pulling facial, I'm going to think about how I'm going to answer this faces, however you describe those, I guess like I just did. I'm sure I knew about it at the time. I mean, it's just ridiculous that it happened. And then I had my memory refreshed about it recently. So a bit like Officer Dever, she has her memories refreshed. I'm sure I knew about it at the time. Absolute deception in the sentence. She has certainty about knowing. I'm sure I knew. But she didn't execute. She observed. Donna offered $1 million. Dan refused. Then someone found a cheaper solution. Half-price hitmen. On layaway. We have the 2 denials, one brain. I did not visit the crime scene, she said. Involvement in the murder, no. This particular denial is not reliable, is it? She's really arguing about the semantics. She admits that she went up to the yellow crime tape as far as she possibly could. A long drive down that road. She couldn't help herself. In fact, her brother on some of the prison audio phone calls says as such. She couldn't help herself. And her brother was angry about it. She drove to the murder scene on the morning of the murder. She wanted to see, like an arsonist going back to the fire. She wanted to see the crime, the activity. Couldn't help herself. I did not visit the crime scene. This deserves an entire sentence. Involvement in the murder, the singular no. Not reliable. The brain has enough energy to deny visiting a crime scene in full form when she's lying through her teeth. It does not have enough energy to deny involvement in murder beyond one word. The contrast is the finding. The logic that destroys itself. She says, I don't think anyone took that motion very seriously. So we have slight cognitive overload and the repetitive I. Very often after this pattern, we will have some level of deception. I don't think anyone took that motion very seriously. So notice how subtly it's serious, but not very serious. And the hedging, I don't think, I hedging, and then tells us that it is serious, but not very. Did Dan Markel take it seriously? I don't know how Danny felt about emotion. If he wrote the motion, he was probably taking it seriously. She said, I don't think anyone took it seriously. And then she tells us that he was probably taking it seriously. And there's only one question between. Her own claim that anyone didn't take it seriously is contradicted by one simple question from Georgia. By her own mouth, less than a minute later, the brain knew this when it stuttered I in the beginning. And the conscious mind couldn't sustain it. So we know normally after this pattern, unless there's another reason, for instance, they are a stutterer, or there's another reason like trauma or something. Normally after this pattern, we have an element of deception. And of course, we sometimes see I. I've even seen I once. Or was it 5? It was 5 or 6. We have that contradiction. She doesn't have the guts to carry on with the deception. One single question from Georgia, and she contradicts her deception. We essentially have a witness who is in a frame of mind of being deceptive. And with absolute arrogance, she's convinced she's going to get away with it and doesn't care about the 2 people on trial or her family, really. In fact, she lands her. If you go back on the Veriscope channel and look for the Wendi videos where we go through her police interview on the day of the murder, she dobs her family in immediately. She lands her brother in it within the first 10 minutes of the police interview. In fact, that whole police interview is structured by her. You can tell it's been planned. She has alibi sections, people who should be the suspects sections, and she goes through it methodically in order, and she sticks to the order that she's planned. So go and look for the police first day of the murder videos. There's about 5 of them. There's about 5 hours of transcript and analysis. She is extremely deceptive, and also we get to hear her talk with her mother from the police station, and she talks in code with her mother about the murder. Then we have memory splits along motive lines. Did he threaten to press kidnapping charges? I don't remember that. As if you wouldn't. I mean, come on. She just doesn't care that you know that she's lying. Did he threaten to go after your law license? I don't remember that. This would have been absolute one of the reasons why the murder occurred. But she says, I don't remember that. People aren't killed for singular reasons normally. It's the perfect storm: money, location, my career, my law license. Everything builds up into that decision to literally pull the trigger and hire the hitman after you've been planning and plotting with your family to do so. Manipulating, gaslighting, influencing. Do you remember him saying you failed to disclose assets? I do remember that. Safe, dangerous, dangerous. Can't remember, can remember. She forgets Stan's kidnapping threats. She forgets threats to her law license. The two you wouldn't forget, but remembers her own failure to disclose. The first two paint Dan's anger as justified, establishing motive. The third paints her as flawed. The brain will admit its own failures. It will not admit Dan's justified anger. Do you remember the little pantomime over the address? But she remembered in the end after much effort. Well done, Wendi. She has perfect memory recall for areas that she deems as safe or help her alibi architecture. She has perfect memory recall of, but she can't remember, or she hedges, or she thinks on everything that's dangerous to her. From her law license threats to the kidnapping charge threats to the sanctions brought against her to the circumstances of the hitman joke, the pending motion at the time of the murder, her mother's statements to the grandchildren trying to poison them against their father. And then we have the murder morning itself. The TV repairman is inside Wendi's home. Excuse the incorrect timing here. I believe it was actually 10:30, wasn't it? 10, something like that. Do forgive my transcript error there, or presentation error rather. She said, I know I had left to meet some friends for lunch, so I guess it was I had left. I was home until that time. That sounds right. The unnecessary left. Then I went to meet friends conveys an identical meaning. Left marks sensitivity at the point of departure. We have the double left in the paragraph. There's huge time gaps in her mourning. And also, do you remember she was wearing it was a strange outfit to go to a restaurant with her friends in. She had an owl on the t-shirt. It looked like, she'd dressed to go decorating in the spare room. It was that kind of outfit. So something happened. She was in a rush. She didn't have time to get ready to go and meet the friends, I don't think. And so left in that state. Maybe she was packing. That would make sense. I think she was packing. She couldn't wait to leave. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of today's Veriscope. We're about halfway through the analysis, and we'll continue tomorrow with part of the cross and then the re-examination, and we'll continue on with the analysis tomorrow. Okay, chat to you in the comments. Oh, please do feel welcome to share clips or links to any of the Veriscopes or to like and subscribe and comment. All will definitely help with the reach. Much appreciated. Okay, speak in the comments.